Go. My name is Richard Anderson. I'm the father of the bride, Kathryn. And thank you. Thank you, Kathryn. Good. Thank you. Half of that I know is for Kathryn. But anyway, it is a great pleasure to be here and to celebrate the union of this wonderful couple who, in fact, deserve each other. This is a match made in heaven, and if your religious orientation permits, I would suggest an expression of thanks to God. If you have a more secular orientation, I would suggest an expression of thanks to Jen and Tommy at table 12, who introduced them to each other. Thank you. Well done. So, as the father of the bride, I do feel an obligation to assure that this is in fact the right guy and so I've did some research about Ben, and I did a lot of interviews. But anyway, the short answer is yes, he is the right guy. And but Ben and I have some things in common, and although I'm not as tech savvy as he is, I think quantitatively, like he does, that is, he wants to know who won the game last night, but he also wants to know what was the score, and one of the few people I know who knows the answer to the eternal question of who's on first. But suffice it to say, in my quantitative approach, I stumbled into the Boy Scouts of America assessment of character, the 12 parts. Some of you know that a person must be trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And if you can say that in one breath, you get to be an Eagle Scout. Anyway, but Ben is all of the above. There were 3 of the little items that were flagged during the 12-part assessment. The flag on for reverent, his reverence for Kathryn counts. So that's taken care of. Obedient is a little hard to weave into a discussion about marital matters, but other than to say that in marital discourse, I would just recommend, as the song says, know when to hold them and know when to fold them. So, anyway, but the final one that was flagged was loyalty, and it was flagged because Ben is the personification of loyalty, and everyone's presence here underscores that. He is loyal to all, friends, family, and Kathryn, and he is known for that, and your presence here tonight is an expression that the loyalty is reciprocal, as we all love and appreciate him. Now, we're moving on to Kathryn now. That's not quite as short, but anyway, but I've known her 6 times as long as I've known Ben. But suffice it to say, so he is the perfect match in summary. But for Kathryn, I have about 100 adjectives that I could use. They're all positive, and there are many that are shared with you here, with people, with her friends. I will focus on one of those adjectives that she does not share in equal measure with almost anyone, and that is resourceful. And there are many examples. Those of you who've worked with her can understand and appreciate that. An early indication of this was back in 5th grade when she was in Minnesota on a cold January day, and she and her friend Abby had a project on Sunday afternoon trying to figure out how they were going to catch up to the other 5th grade class that was in a competition, a fundraising competition with their class. They were behind $20, and so they needed to come up with something. So they were old enough to be left alone. My wife and I went on an errand and then came back to see her, Kathryn, sitting at the end of the driveway at a table that the scene looked like a lemonade stand in summer, but this being January, they were serving hot chocolate to passersby. It was rather warm chocolate, shall we say, or actually warm dilute chocolate, but it was good enough. The passersby were impressed and surprised, sympathetic, and in one case extravagant. After she got a bit of the way, a person gave her $10, which I think entitled him to 20 cups. I think he had none, actually, of those, but proceeded to put them over the top. They went to class the next day and got their win of that. Kathryn got their win. So hold that one. So that was a remarkable example of her resourcefulness. Those of you who worked with her at the University of Minnesota may also remember the time when she scheduled an event for 150 people. She was in the role of admissions and recruiting, both nationally and internationally. Thank you for taking me to Beijing and Shanghai and Taipei and et cetera. But she had 150 parking spaces for her 150 people. I think it was an hour or so before the event, she was told those parking spaces are not available. So some of us in that setting might need CPR, actually. Kathryn leapt into action, talked to her person she knew at the Holiday Inn, and magically produced 150 parking spaces with time to spare. So another glorious example of her resourcefulness. The final, I know you're looking forward to anything final here, the final example is when she and Ben traveled to Japan in 2019 for the purpose of visiting his parents who were working in Japan in international education. They spent some time with the parents, and their other adventure was to go on a mountain climbing hike of 3 days, wasn't it? 3 days. And on the third day, my wife noted that actually, looking at her phone, it's a rainy day where they're doing their hiking. And indeed, there was rain as they neared the summit, I guess, and Ben found himself slipping on a rock. And when he stood up, he was facing west, but one of his shoulders was facing northwest. And so they're on this mountain with a dislocated shoulder, not something Kathryn had encountered before. So at 10 a.m. Their time, she called Minnesota, 10 p.m. our time, talked to her brother, who's here, talked to her brother, who as a physician and an athlete had experience with dislocated shoulder, and through verbal consultation and diagrams, I believe, or something, that the three of you got the shoulder back in the right place, and everyone lived happily ever after. We got a picture from the bottom of the mountain. Yep. Bravo. Yep. So that was dramatic for me. I told several friends at lunch within a few days of my hearing that, and they were all in agreement. The guy that said, if I'm Ben, we get to the bottom of the mountain, and ring or no ring, I ask her to marry me right then and there. So he may have decided that in that moment. But it took a couple of years to execute to pop the question. But whatever the decision was, it was the right one, and we know the timetable going forward now that the honeymoon will begin in going to Italy in 2 days, and it is a wonderful place to go. The Italians know a lot about love and happiness. I lived there for almost 2 years and didn't find love actually, but found a lot of happiness in Italy, and they know a lot about that. So for your honeymoon, I wish you buon viaggio, and for your marriage, I wish you love and happiness forever. And I will toast, if I had anything to toast with, a toast to all of them, to them for their life. Thank you.
Hello. So to introduce myself, I'm Nate. I'm Ben's older brother and best man. I was incredibly and truly honored to have been asked by him to stand by his side today as he married Kathryn in that beautiful ceremony that we all attended. And yeah, it's been great to see the embodiment of this day come to light. So obviously, being Ben's older brother, I've known him my whole life. his whole life. And thanks to our parents, Ben and I had somewhat of a different childhood. Grew up living in Saudi Arabia, Morocco, spent summers at the lake in Cross Lake, and eventually ended up in Iowa for middle school and high school. Yeah. So we obviously traveled the world together, sort of as a result of our parents, but we saw incredible things, and we spent countless hours playing soccer, baseball, wiffle ball, and ping pong, just about in any place you can imagine. Being the older brother, I sort of always had the upper hand in our competitions, and I think that really helped to build Ben's character in a lot of ways. Since Ben and I are 3 years apart, we did spend, we overlapped a year in both high school and at St. Olaf, in college as well. In both settings, Ben didn't really need or want any of my help learning the ropes or finding friends or finding any trouble that he was sure to get into. So despite all our common interests and shared experiences, a lot of you know our personalities are quite a bit different. Ben, of course, I mean, he was more of a Renaissance man, I would say, in high school, participating in improv comedy speeches, dabbling in music at talent shows. Of course, you've all heard that he was the quarterback of the football team. He was always acting as more of a social butterfly than I ever was and ever will be. Of course, a jokester, prankster, and troublemaker by all accounts, but not too much trouble. In college, we didn't get to play on the same soccer team as we had in high school a little bit. He was recovering from a surgery that he had gotten in his football career, I believe. But he did involve himself in the soccer team that year as well. He was the self-appointed assistant to the goalie coach and made himself very well known on the team with that role. I could go on for hours with stories about Ben from us being kids and as adults as well. I was told to be brief, probably already going over my time limit, but if anyone wants to hear about Ben crashing a moped in Thailand or melting our PlayStation as kids, feel free to ask me later on. My first time meeting Kathryn was in LA a little over 4 years ago. We all went out to dinner, and it was incredible to see the relationship that Ben and both of them had begun to build. And it was great to finally meet Kathryn in person and see what an amazing person that she is. On that trip, they also borrowed a couple of surfboards, and Kathryn was able to get Ben out surfing, which surprised me from the start. Ben and I had gone on a surfing trip a few years prior to Nicaragua, after which I was sure he would never try surfing again. I know he enjoyed that trip, but I think it was in spite of the surfing and more to do with the people, culture, and the food. So the fact that Kathryn was able to get him out surfing again, and the fact that right afterwards he told me that they had such a great time, the waves were great, and he actually had fun, I knew that right away this relationship was going somewhere. And again, it was more as a result of the people and really the specific person he was with, and again, in spite of the surfing. At this point, as I said, I knew this relationship was going to go somewhere. Since I live in LA, my wife and I don't get to see them very often, but we always enjoy the times that we do spend with them. And we've certainly taken inspiration from their trips and the activities of cross-country skiing, golfing, and now mountain biking, which I'm pretty excited about. And we certainly hope to join you guys more often in the near future. Of course, you both know I'm probably not the best person to give you any wisdom or advice about marriage. I've only been married 2 weeks. I think you can just take a look. But I think you can take a look around and see many other great examples of what makes a lasting relationship, both of our parents and all of our friends and family that are here in support of you guys. Congratulations to you both on this amazing day. Kathryn, I'm happy to welcome you to our family. It's always great spending time with you, and it's been great meeting your family these last few days. Wish you both a lifetime of love, health, and happiness and adventures. So I think it's time for everyone to please raise their glass and toast the newlyweds. Cheers.
Hi, everybody. I am Elizabeth. I'm Kathryn's sister, and I am honored to be here to celebrate Kathryn and Ben with all of you today. I understand the Langholts are not big criers, which I'm afraid can't be said for our family, although we're doing pretty well so far. At Thanksgiving, we usually each say what we're thankful for and start weeping at least halfway around the table. But at Ben's first Anderson Thanksgiving, my nephew Miles spoke for all of us when he said he was thankful for Baba, or Ben. We're so thankful for you that you've been so willing to embrace our family and that Kathryn gets to be part of your wonderful family. And shortly after they started dating, Kathryn told me that Ben had left for a work trip and had asked her to care for his plant, which seems like kind of a serious request after a few dates. He called pretty often to check on the plant and talk to Kathryn. And a couple days right before Ben's return, Kathryn really doubled down on the watering and wanted it to be in great shape. And unfortunately, the plant didn't make it, but obviously Kathryn and Ben did. So kudos. And green thumb or not, Kathryn, when you commit to something, you go all in. And we know that you'll give it your best. And also they have several green and thriving plants, I'm happy to say. Kathryn, you might be my little sister, but you are who I want to be when I grow up. You are kind, fun, determined, sincere, compassionate, hardworking. You invest the time and the effort to care for yourself, for your friends and your family, those whom you serve in your work, and everyone around you. The roots of your relationships go deep, and you tend to them faithfully. Kathryn and Ben, it's been an absolute joy to see your relationship flourish and to see the two of you bloom and grow together. The seeds that you're planting now of compromise, teamwork, trust, compassion, love will surely bear good fruit for you. Kathryn, I couldn't wish for a better partner for you and Ben. And Ben, you're getting an absolute treasure. I wish you both a lifetime of much sunshine, only a little rain, and an abundant harvest of joy together. So please raise your glasses again and toast Kathryn and Ben.
Take this off. All right, so last speech of the night. We have no family members left, so I think this is the last one. My name's Carl Anderson. I'm the brother of the bride, but for the purposes of today, I'm the bride's man. The bride's man, yeah. Term I was not familiar with before this event, actually. And I definitely didn't know that bridesmen gave speeches, so I have nothing to benchmark this off. So I'm just going to talk about the couple. Start with Ben. Ben, I'll start by saying I'm glad that you exist. It's a good place to start. And I wasn't always convinced that you did exist. What I mean by that is I didn't have like a vision in my head of who the right guy was for Kathryn. I knew that person had to be kind and caring, fun and funny and snuggly and athletic but not like annoyingly athletic. And you're certainly all those things and many more. And but really, my idea of what's right for Kathryn is kind of informed around you and getting to know you and learning new ways that you're right for Kathryn. So that's a blessing. So Ben and I have, I think we've bonded over the last few years over a few key points of mutual interest. So among others, that would include sports and competition, gambling, although not actually gambling, more just like talking about bets we would make and then never actually agreeing to terms or exchanging funds. And as an aside, I'll say, so Ben and I definitely won the golf scramble this morning. And for those of you that participated and thought that that was a friendly match, that was not a friendly match. We agreed to terms. We'll be collecting our money. Ben wanted me to insert that into the speech here. I lost my train of thought. So things that we have in common. So discuss for large group FaceTime calls at holidays, that would be one. And then pursuit of a hot deal. So I fancy myself a schemer, like a really good schemer, but I've met my match with Ben. An example comes up with the Minneapolis Club. So this came up at the rehearsal dinner. Minneapolis Club is this elite social membership club, I guess, as the name would suggest. So the physical location is downtown Minneapolis. They have incredible amenities, really nice restaurant. It's meant for a rung of society that, to which we don't really belong. But Ben, as he's known to do, did a deep dive. He read the bylaws, and he saw that for people who are under the age of 35 and have an affiliation with the University of Minnesota, like Kathryn did at the time, you can get a membership for $40 a month. You can name a significant other, and you can take unlimited guests. So we find ourselves at the Minneapolis Club with 8 of our family members, okay? My 3-year-old's, scooping dirt from the potted plants. We're sandwiched between the mayor of the town and the owner of the sports franchise, all for a $40 a month membership. We didn't pay a dime for parking, and I thought to myself in that moment, tip of the cap to you, Ben. You're the master schemer. I also thought, wow, I could really see myself spending the rest of my life with this dude. And, yeah. You marry the family, Ben. So it was clear that Ben and Kathryn were right for each other early on. Things were easy. Conversation was easy. They sought time to spend with each other. That was solidified in my mind in the pandemic in 2020 when I think everyone was sick of everyone else that they were spending time with. I was sick of myself at that time. And Kathryn and Ben were totally unfazed. They spent a lot of time with each other. They found new ways to have fun. They made lemonade from lemons, and it was cool to watch. So Leslie, my wife, my son, Miles, and I spent a lot of time at their condo because we really like spending time with you. Also, there was really nothing else to do during that year. It was just cool to watch. It was so obvious that, it wasn't in spoken word or displays of affection. Thank you for that, by the way. But it was just obvious that there was love there, that, they cared about each other, and that this was something for the future and something that was going to last. Kathryn, I'm going to finish with you. So you roasted me a little bit at my wedding. You said wonderful words that I'll always remember and cherish, but you roasted me a little bit, so I thought about taking a few jabs back, but I'm just going to cut to the point. I think I'm way over my time here, but you're a really good person. I admire you as much for that as anything. And you deserve all this today. You deserve Ben. And, I'm crying, everyone's crying. We're criers. I'm the bridesman, I can cry. But I'm crying because you're our real treasure, and you always have been. Cheers.
So I promise we are actually the very, very last speech. But we just wanted to say thank you so much to all of you. I was optimistic that I'd be able to stand up here and not cry, but just thank you all so much. All of you have been such an important piece of our past. Many of you have, changed our diapers or driven us to sporting events or various memories of our childhood. All of you are such an important part of today and our present and some of our closest friends and family. And we thank you in advance for the important part that you're going to play in our future marriage and the love and support that you will continue to give us throughout our lives together. So thank you all so much for being here and for being such an important part of our lives. Before I totally lose it, I'm going to announce that there are bonfires and cookies and a dance floor waiting for all of us outside, and we're really excited to celebrate with all of you the rest of tonight. So thank you so much.
I don't have much to say. I just been kind of thinking as I've been looking out, I always kind of envisioned what this would look like everyone who liked me in the same room. And it's an interesting cast of characters. I can't imagine the conversations at some of your tables. Other than that, I just wanted to reiterate that Carl and I did win. My Venmo is Ben Langholtz, so $15 a person for people who played. But thanks everyone for coming out, and see you on the dance floor.
We love you all.
Bravo.